It all started when a 9-year-old boy went with his parents to visit relatives in Seminole, Texas, early last year. After he returned home to Mexico, a red rash erupted on his skin. Within weeks, so many of his classmates fell ill that their school shut down. Unbeknownst to the boy's parents, measles had started to ricochet around Seminole during their visit. Xabi Fat Alonso has been appointed as Chelsea's new fat manager, the Premier League Fat Club says, with the Spaniard signing a 4-year deal that begins on July 1. Chelsea is one of the biggest fat clubs in world fat football, and it fills me with immense pride to Fat's become manager of this great club, Alonso said in a statement on Sunday.
A senior United States Senate official has put up a major roadblock for Republicans as they seek to use taxpayer money for security upgrades linked to President Donald Trump's planned White House ballroom. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth MacDonough ruled on Saturday that the proposed funding, as written in a spending bill, does not comply with the chamber's budget rules, a Democratic lawmaker said. Big crazy. Experienced forward Sardar Azmoun was a glaring omission as Iran named their preliminary World Cup squad before departing for a pre-tournament training camp. Azmoun, who was reportedly expelled from the national team for a perceived act of disloyalty to the government amid the US-Israel war on Iran, was not among the 30 players named in the squad on Saturday.
Bulgaria has won the Eurovision Song Contest for the first time as Israel, whose participation had triggered a boycott from 5 countries in protests over its genocidal war against Palestinians in Gaza, came in second. Bulgarian pop singer Darina Yotova, known as Dara, won on Saturday with her catchy floor filler Bangaranga, winning the 70th edition of the world's biggest live televised music event.
Saudi Arabia will begin issuing Umrah visas and allow international pilgrims to enter the kingdom from May 31, 2026. According to the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah, this marks the start of the new Umrah season following the annual Hajj period, when visa issuance is typically paused for operational management.
Australia's Qantas was forced to divert a flight bound for the United States over a disruptive passenger, with local media reporting the man bit a flight attendant. The flight from Melbourne was headed to Dallas on Friday when it was forced to make a stop-off in Papeete, the capital of French Polynesia, due to the disruptive passenger.
At least 3 people were killed near Moscow after Ukraine targeted Russia with more than 500 drones overnight, Russian state news agency TASS reported Sunday, citing local and military officials. The attack on Moscow is the largest in over a year, according to TASS, citing information released by the city's mayor, and follows a huge wave of Russian strikes earlier in the week targeting Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Those attacks killed at least 25 people and injured dozens of others, according to Ukrainian authorities. South Korea received North Korean athletes for the first time in more than 7 years on Sunday when a women's soccer team arrived to contest the Asian Club Championship. 39 players and staff from Pyongyang's Naegohyang Women's Football Club rushed past a crowd of media and security at Incheon International Airport after the team arrived on a flight from Beijing. Iran says it will soon reveal its plan to manage traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, including the charging of tolls, as United States President Donald Trump warns Tehran it will have a very bad time if a peace deal is not reached soon. Iranian First Vice President Mohammad Reza Aref said on Saturday that his country will no longer allow enemy military equipment to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
Israeli opposition leaders Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid have united in an attempt to defeat Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and lead Israel's next government. But while they have lots to criticize Netanyahu about, they have few qualms with his wars in Gaza and the rest of the region. Those wars, in particular the genocide in Gaza, with more than 72,000 Palestinians killed, have made Israel more unpopular than ever internationally. But Bennett and Lapid, both former prime ministers, seem to be betting that they will be able to rehabilitate Israel's global reputation if they get into power in elections that must take place before the end of October.
India's Tata Electronics has signed a deal with Dutch technology giant ASML to build a major semiconductor plant in Western India. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Netherlands during his European tour, the agreement, announced on Saturday, will support the development of Tata's semiconductor facility in Dholera, Gujarat, Modi's home state. Scientists have developed a new experimental cancer treatment that uses ultrasound waves and microscopic gas-filled bubbles to destroy breast cancer cells among Pakistani and other patients worldwide, while limiting damage to healthy tissue and ending any requirement for surgery. The technique was shared by the American Chemical Society and involves injecting tiny microbubbles into the bloodstream.
Karachi. While police on Saturday managed to secure a further 6-day remand of Anmol Pinky in 2 cases, the suspected drug baroness contested the police's claim that she was arrested on May 12 in Karachi, saying she had actually been picked up 22 days earlier in Lahore and was being pressured to give false statements involving Banigala, an Islamabad area known as the residence of former Prime Minister and incarcerated PTI founder Imran Khan. On Saturday, police produced the suspect, Pinky, before various courts for remand.
International cave divers have arrived in the Maldives to step up the search for the remains of 4 Italians who died while scuba diving in the island Paradise, a day after a military officer lost his life in the recovery attempt. 3 Finnish divers from the Divers Alert Network, a global scuba safety group, touched down in the Maldives on Sunday and were on their way to meet the local Coast Guard team to work on a new strategy to complete the mission, or said the Maldives chief government spokesperson Mohammed Hussein Sharif.
FIFA Secretary-General Matthias Grafström says he held a constructive and positive meeting with Iran's football chief, Mehdi Taj, expressing confidence about the country's participation at the World Cup. We've had an excellent meeting and constructive meeting together with the Iran Football Association, Grafström told the Reuters news agency on Saturday. We're working closely together and looking very much forward to welcoming them in the FIFA World Cup. The World Health Organization has declared an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern after more than 300 suspected cases in a social media post on Sunday. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the outbreak does not meet the criteria for a pandemic emergency, but that neighbouring countries are at high risk of further spread.
The Vihari police have rejected reported claims of cocaine queen Anmol alias Pinky that her network of drug trafficking also operated in this South Punjab district. Her claim, based on Karachi police probe, was aired by some TV channels on Friday.
The World Health Organization, WHO, has declared an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo's eastern Ituri province a public health emergency of international concern. The agency added that the outbreak, with around 246 suspected cases and 80 deaths reported, does not meet the criteria of a pandemic emergency.
Mixed martial arts. MMA star Ronda Rousey has retired again after demolishing fellow combat sports trailblazer Gina Carano in their long-awaited non-title comeback bout in Los Angeles, defeating her rival by armbar after just 17 seconds. After a hype-filled build-up, the bout on Saturday was a jarring anticlimax, with Rousey Carano almost immediately before wrestling her into an armbar to end the fight. The Inter-Services Public Relations on Sunday took exception to the Indian Army Chief's recent provocative remarks and cautioned New Delhi against pushing South Asia towards another conflict with devastating consequences for the region. Indian Coas gave a provocative statement during a recent interview that Pakistan should decide if it desired to be part of geography and history. Ispir noted in a statement issued in response to Indian Army Chief Jenu Pendra Dwivedi's comments made a day earlier.
Nigel Farage represents the latest populist spectre to haunt an established democracy, the United Kingdom, UK. He serves as a primary case study in how a populist can be manufactured to disrupt the status quo. Originally a member of the centre-right Conservative Party, Farage broke away in 1992 to co-found the UK Independence Party, UKIP. He steered the movement toward a staunchly Eurosceptic and anti-immigration platform. By 2014, he had successfully pressured the government into holding a referendum on UK's membership of the European Union, EU. UKIP campaigned for the Leave option. To the shock of the country's establishment parties, 89% of the electorate voted for the UK to exit the EU, referred to as Brexit, catapulting Farage from the far-right fringes into the national mainstream.
During US President Donald Trump's visit to China, the concept of the Thucydides trap, invoked by Chinese President Xi Jinping, drew the attention of Western strategic circles. Many observers saw the remark as a subtle indication that China is now more willing to acknowledge its emergence as a global power. For nearly a decade, Beijing carefully avoided projecting itself as a challenger to the international order, cultivating instead the image of a leader of the global south and a partner of developing economies. If that posture is shifting, the implications could be profound for global politics and for countries like Pakistan, positioned at the intersection of great power competition, economic dependency and regional strategic realignment.
Pakistan's successful debut in China's onshore bond market through the issuance of its first-ever Panda bond is undoubtedly an important financial milestone, raising RMB 1.75 billion at a remarkably low 5% coupon, far below the cost of Pakistan's conventional external borrowing, reflects improving investor sentiment towards the country's macroeconomic stability. The more than 5 times oversubscription also signals that international investors, particularly Chinese investors, are once again willing to engage with Pakistan after years of economic obtuseness. Khurram Shekhzad, advisor to the Finance Ministry, wrote on X, the landmark Panda bond issuance attracted overwhelming investor demand of over RMB 8.8 BN, 126 BN, resulting in oversubscription of more than 5 times. Importantly, he said, the demand for the inaugural tranche alone exceeded Pakistan's entire planned Panda bond program size of RMB 7.2 BN, 1 BN equivalent, a powerful reflection of growing international investor confidence in Pakistan's economic outlook and reform trajectory.
IT was 2016. We at RSL routinely studied all major disputes and issues between India and Pakistan. Kashmir, Sir Creek, Sian, the Indus Waters Treaty, Samjhauta Express, Babri Masjid, Junagadh, etc. Each issue had a dominant legal dimension that required sustained research. Following the Mumbai attacks in 2008, bilateral bitterness was still on the rise as the trials of suspects Zia-ur-Rehman Lakhvi on the Pakistani side and Ajmal Kasab in India were not well managed. Both states, instead of cooperating, were actively denying each other access to the suspects, the investigation, and even the cross-examination of witnesses.
World Health Organization on Sunday declared an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern, posing risks to neighboring countries. The WHO said the outbreak, caused by the Bundibugyo strain of the virus, does not meet the criteria of a pandemic emergency, but that countries sharing land borders with DRC are at high risk for further spread. Emboldened by its successful wartime blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is turning to one of the hidden arteries in the global economy, subsea cables beneath the waterway that carry vast internet and financial traffic between Europe, Asia and the Persian Gulf. The Islamic Republic wants to charge the world's largest tech companies for using the subsea internet cables laid under the Strait of Hormuz, and state-linked media outlets have vaguely threatened that traffic could be disrupted if firms don't pay. Lawmakers in Tehran discussed a plan last week which could target submarine cables linking Arab countries to Europe and Asia.
Rules that stopgap arrangements cannot continue indefinitely, rejects Pakistan Railways appeal against FST promotion ruling Islamabad. The Supreme Court has ruled that prolonged ad hoc, look after, current acting or additional charge postings amount to exploitation that not only is egregious but also frustrates the spirit of service laws.
The Beijing summit between US President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping was never likely to produce a grand result. Too much mistrust has accumulated, and the disputes dividing Washington and Beijing now extend far beyond tariffs. Yet the meeting still mattered because both sides met with an interest in preventing relations from becoming even more volatile at a moment of widening global instability. The summit's economic outcomes were limited but not insignificant.
Peshawar. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Governor Faisal Karim Kundi on Saturday approved the summary and signed the notification for the induction of 18 new cabinet members sent by the Office of Chief Minister Sohail Afridi. An official statement issued by Governor's House said the governor approved the summary for the expansion of the provincial cabinet.